HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
The Heritage End of Year Fund Drive is officially on. Become a member today at heritageradionetwork.org/donate.
Hey, welcome to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. This is our special Christmas 2018 show. We're recording it in the fall 2018. We just happen to have a very special guest. And, you know, for years we've had our friends from the Shelton Brothers, and they've brought in some great beers from Scandinavia, Norway, and Denmark. We used to even do a Scandinavian beer event, didn't we? Is BR here, BR Roya from Shelton, and Bob W. From Shelton. But I've always been fascinated by your different Scandinavian beers, and you know, most people think, oh, Christmas beers and Scandinavian beers, dark malts and juniper branches or something. So that's kind of a little hook for our Christmas show. And then our special guest, I mean, to me, it's one of the coolest breweries you guys have, the Haand Brewery. I always call it Homebrewing. Stefan.
Hi, man. Nice to meet you.
Do I use my Scandinavian accent? Does it sound the same as my Danish accent or my Norwegian accent?
Do you want me to give you the nice answer or the correct answer?
Give us the nice one first.
Homebrewing, that's the name of the brewery. So, we started out back in 2005 for home brewers, and that was actually before my time, which if this had been on the television, you could have seen from my youngish great looks, but...
You got a full beard. There's a little bit of gray coming in.
Just a tin bit. Used to be nothing. Now, like, every time I get a haircut, it's like, where did that come from?
It shows character.
For sure. But how did you guys find Haand? So, I mean, you know, 2005 they started kind of home brewers in Norway.
Well, I mean, as you know, we usually try to find whether it is their classic brewers in different countries or also the up and coming ones. And what was really particularly interesting about Haand was, you know, they came from a homebrew background, but they were focused on a lot of more traditional ales. You know, they weren't doing, I mean, they do IPAs and things, but it was mostly a lot of more local ingredients, you know, using whether it's juniper or rye, wild yeasts, things that would have been more towards a traditional farmhouse ale, as opposed to, say, Njø, who we also import, who are skewing more towards international styles, whether porters, imperial stouts, IPAs. So this was just, that was sort of the new wave of introducing those styles to Norway, whereas this was going deeper into, you know, what was possibly done in the countryside back, 100 years ago.
So, Stefan, how long have you been with the company?
I actually started out 3 years ago. It was quite by accident and tomfoolery and being the cheeky guy I am. I was actually working in the oil business at the time. And Haand was actually going through a little rough patch, as you know, for breweries that's been around for a while. In Norway, the tax system and alcohol system is framed in a way that, like, you can't sell your beers on site. You have to sell it through a third company, and then to the wine monopoly, and then the state will again tax you quite heavily for going going back to your question, 3 years ago, I was actually at another brewery, just drinking, having fun, and I said to one of the guys, I can't find my favorite brewery, Haand, in Bergen anywhere, and their CEO like jokingly said like, well, you should do something about it. So I just called him and said, hey guys, I can't find your beers, and do you want me to help you? Because at the time I was also doing quite a bit of beer and cheese tastings, whiskey tastings, and it's just sort of snowballed.
That's funny. It's cool that you said you worked in the oil industry, because I assume that Norway, that is one of the big industries there, isn't it?
That's the moneymaker, baby. That's the oil and fish. So
What about fish oil?
fish oil as well.
And oily fish.
And very oily fish. Speaking of which, we're actually going to the Extreme Beer Fest in Boston in February, where we are going to bring in mackerel stout.
This is like 2 months away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But mackerel stout. So you actually put some mackerel in the beer?
yeah, mackerel and tobacco.
Oh boy.
If that's not extreme, I don't.
No, let's talk about some more your philosophy of beer. So I've had Haand before. I always think it's really cool. You guys were making beers with some traditional ingredients, but you're also making. I saw the full lineup. You have some what look like normal beers, wits and things. I don't know, but do you export everything, or what's the difference between beers you sell in Norway and beers that you export, and what's the demand, especially in the export, for what styles of beer?
Back in Norway, we do what the rest of the kids do. We sell a lot of hazy IPAs, a lot of Citra Pale Ales. That's the thing that pays the money and really enables us to do what we want to do, which is to make sours and big stouts, Kveik beers, farmhouse beers. That's really what's in our DNA, and I think we're really moving into having even more of that, using local malts, which we never could for like 2 years ago. Now it's becoming a big thing. We can finally use that.
Beer, when you're taking Stefan around to sales calls, I think you were just at KCBC earlier. I know we talked about Brewery Lane, that great bar in Greenpoint.
Mm-hmm.
What's your selling points for Haand? How do you describe it to people?
Well, I mean, again, it's more of the unique ingredients, the sours that they're doing, the Kveik, which Stefan can explain more of. It's a style of yeast, a type of yeast that is used at small, on a very, very small local level, and that's become a very interesting yeast for both professional brewers and home brewers right now. There's been a huge resurgence of that, and there's tiny little small yeast packaged around the country where there'll be a farmer or a home brewer who will just grow their own and keep it propagated, and it is local and is specific to one farm perhaps or one valley in Norway. I mean, you can probably, Stefan, explain a little bit more. And so that's almost sort of in a way a Norwegian version of a Belgian lambic, where it's specific to a locale and you really can't do it. I mean, obviously now you can culture that yeast and send it elsewhere, but at the time it was something that could only have been made in one specific location, and more towards on the wild yeast. And that's what's interesting for us in bringing these beers over, and what our accounts are interested in. I mean, a IPA from Norway, sure, it could be really good, but by the time it gets here, it's going to be much more expensive. It's going to be older than a local Citra Pale Ale. So there's no reason for us to import that, unless it's for a special event. We might bring in, a keg or two or something just to show the range of the broad range of the brewery. But for the most part, we're into these styles that are things that might not be done elsewhere except in Norway.
Right. So it's Kveik, is that what it's called?
Kveik.
Kveik.
And Kveik is like, I'm from the western part of Norway, and Kveik just means yeast. So when people came to us like, do you guys do Kveik beers? We're like, well, we have to use yeast for our beers, like. But yeah, Kveik is like this fantastic super mutant Viking yeast. They can handle temperatures from like 10 degrees Celsius to 36 degrees Celsius, and it won't give you off flavors.
Wow.
It's we have been just like throwing the book at this yeast and like.
So you're using a specific yeast, or do you have like a set yeast in your valley that you've cultivated? Or how is it working?
We actually buy the latest strands of Kveik that we have used for our clean beers because we have quite a big brewery now. We actually bought from a lab in New York, and that's because
That is funny, but it's not that funny. It's kind of normal, isn't it?
yeah, it's just the way it is. Things are hyper local and global at the same time. Some of the best Kveik beers I had recently was just here in New York. I went to Transmitter Brewery. They had a Kveik Saison. And Fifth Hammer had a thing in their tanks.
But do people call the beers Kveik beers?
I think Transmitter called it a Kveik Saison. I don't know what Chris from Fifth Hammer was planning with the beer. He was just playing around with it.
Be a great kind of beer to have a cheese pairing with, have a cheesequake.
Cheesequake, absolutely.
But so Kveik is more like a farmhouse ale.
Well, it's not a style so much as it is the yeast itself. So it's, I've been seeing breweries saying that it's a perhaps Kveik fermented, but it's not a particular style. You can do any type of beer, really, but it's more of the styles tend to be farmhouse styles, at least the ones that I've seen in the U.S.
Yeah. If you really want to go to make a Kveik beer, that is what we will call a Cornell, which is like made at the local farm, very high temps, a lot of alcohol, which you really, really can't taste, and served in a plastic bottle at a lukewarm temp. It's amazing. But that's not something that we as a bigger brewery in Norway, big being a very relative term right here, but that's not something that we can do. We wouldn't know how to sell it really. So we do with one of my babies, Earthquake, which is just like sort of, it's like a farmhouse beer from Belgium, but with a traditional Norwegian twist to it. It's and Kveik is also there's so many strains of Kveik. And in Norway, when we refer to a Kveik beer, I always say that we use the Langlo Kveik, because the guy that owns this Kveik, like his family was the one like kept it going. Stein Alder Langlo, he's up from like Sunnmøre, which is on the northwestern part of Norway.
I'm nodding at every name you say. I have no idea what you're saying.
So that's like family names. People will talk about Voss Kveik, and that really rubs me a little bit, because there's like a lot of different strains, family names from Kveik strains from Voss, and you should sort of how you translate this into English, like give thanks to the farm that kept this Kveik going. So we
call it props.
Yeah, props. Yeah, props is good.
What do you think, Bob? How would you? What question would you ask? I want to know more about the Kveiks.
Well, I think that a couple questions. One, it'd be great if you could do a hemp beer and make a Quake and Bake. That would be fun. And I think a beer to promote world peace and call it Quaker would be nice.
That's good.
That's a good idea.
I'm glad I can understand your English, Bob.
Dankjewel. No, sorry, wrong language. Talk.
But Quakes are something new. But it's like that with a lot of things. These strains of yeast, and it's interesting that it's been your tradition for a long time then.
Yeah, it's like those Kveik strains. They've been sort of a well hidden secret for 500 years. Homebrewing has like always been a very important thing in Norway. Back in the day, like if you made bad beer 3 years in a row, you would either have to, be put to death, which no one really wants to do, I think, or move to Iceland, which is even worse, which is today waters people living in Iceland.
From
Because
making
they were
beer.
bad brewers.
Yeah.
What was the tradition? Let's do this. Let's taste this beer we have. This is another beer that's on tap. So every week we taste a beer on tap from Roberta's Pizza, our home here. And this is a Grim Paradise, which is a 4.7% sour beer. Let's sip this. We'll take a short break. We'll be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions Radio. All right.
For the past 10 years, Heritage Radio Network has brought listeners around the world the most important voices in food and drink. I'm Matt Patterson, the lead engineer here at HRN. 6 years ago, when I was teaching myself to brew beer out in San Diego, I listened to Heritage Radio shows for tips, tricks, and inspiration. Heritage Radio's programming simply would not be possible without the support of listeners like you. Become a member of Heritage Radio Network today and give HRN a strong start to our second decade. Choose from exclusive member gifts and stay in the loop on discounts to upcoming events. Now is the best time to show your support for HRN. Go to heritageradionetwork.org/donate.
Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio. Guys, guess what? It's Christmas time. It's end of 2018. And we've got Stefan from the Haand Brewery, Homebrewing in Norway. We're talking about all kinds of things, Kveik, and we were just talking about some of the history. I didn't realize that Norway had such a rich history of homebrewing and brewing going back. So tell us more about that. Like, did people have to make beer and give it to the king? Were people growing malt grains, and do you have malt? Is that a big part of the tradition there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was like when the first laws were written in Norway, back to the Gulating laws. Being a historian by trade, I should remember what year it was, but
Just make up a date. No one will check.
yeah, like 30 and something. In the times of yore, that's a very good date. In times of yore, it was written down in laws that you had to make your own beer, and you have to remember
So
how
every household had to make beer.
yeah,
Every farm,
yeah.
estate.
Yeah, farm, household. You have to remember that, like, drinking the type of water we drink today, we take that for granted. So we basically had to boil the water back then. And beer is very nutritious. You would brew your beer like 3 times to make a strong one that you would have, like, when the king came, or the guy who said he was king the next week. And it was like, it was said in the laws that if you made beers like bad 3 years in a row, you had to have the proper malt. It should weigh as much as your wife did. So back then, women really couldn't lie about their weight. Like that would give you a different type of problem. And then homebrewing is like, it's been ingrained into a culture, and it was not really until with the advent of what I call craft beer back. There was boring lagers that people used to drink. Homebrewing sort of disappeared for a bit, but now it's really coming back. When I start to homebrew back like 10 years ago, there were maybe like 2,000 or 3,000 of us, and now it's like 15, 20, 50,000, which doesn't seem a lot here, but in Norway that's a lot of people.
So there's still a history of making beer, and so on that note, what about taxes and the other systems? If you had, do you have to give some of your beer to the king? What's the system? And were people able to grow grain in Norway? Is there a local grain and malt industry? Was there for a long time?
There's never been commercial malteries in Norway, actually, until now that I know of. We started working with a company called Norsk Malt, and they make their own malts at the farm, not too far from our brewery. So we basically said to them, like, whatever you make, we'll take it. So we're doing that with our Kveik beers. I really want to move that on to all our sours, all our farmhouse beers, maybe even into our IPAs. Even though no, he's doing a lot of this stuff by hand. It's not as commercially available, maybe competitively price wise. But it's still something we want to do. It's like that's the next logical step for us. We really want to have that Norvège terroir thing going. That's why these days I'm very adamant about not calling our cherry sours a Kveik, not calling it a Framboise. We have to give props to Jean Monroy and Haand and those guys. Back when Haand started, it made a lot of sense, to call it Tinbik, which is our sea buckthorn sour, or to call it the Hunbuck. We'll still make Hunbuck and call it that because that's our baby. But for new beer now, we won't call it that. It's a bit like saying that you make a Vermont IPA. It's we make a hazy IPA, but it's not from Vermont, right?
Yeah. And then we're drinking from Grimm, which has been around for a while, but their brewery opened this year in Brooklyn. It's the Grimm Paradise. It's a 4.7% sour. So you've been around New York City visiting in the fall. What are some of the breweries you visited? And what do you guys think of this beer? I mean, this is kind
it's
of
red.
A jammy red sour beer.
It reminds me of borscht.
I can't drink this beer and say that I hate it because Joe would kill me the next time I meet him. I met Joe at the Shelton Fest now this weekend, and I went back to his brewery yesterday. So we're doing some beers.
So you came to town because you were at the Shelton Festival in
Yeah.
Denver.
I have a lot of
the
family
fall.
in the U.S., so I want to do a lot more stuff here so we can visit. And it's my first time in New York City, which is just insane. I grew up with Medeski Martin Wood, Wu-Tang Clan, John Schofield, reading comics like Spider-Man and
You probably know more about New York than I do.
So, so it's being a guy from Norway, New York is still really important to me. Culturally, it's there's so much great culture coming from here.
Well, I think a lot of the rats here in New York City are descendant of Norwegian wharf rats. Came over in ships, and that's not a joke, even though I just said it. But
in that case, I feel sorry for you guys because those are some mean mofos.
And they found one, in the Court Street tunnel that was buried that was something like 6 feet from head to tail, a skeleton of one. Yeah, from head to tail, 6 feet.
Those are the big Norwegians,
Viking rats.
Viking rats.
Yeah,
But New York beer. So you were you visited Joe Grimm at Grimm's. We're drinking this red sour. You've been to KCBC.
KCBC, Transmitter, Fifth Hammer. I actually went to Village Vanguard for the first time yesterday with Chris from Fifth Hammer, which is thank you,
He's
Chris.
a great jazz player too, Chris Kuzma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jazz and music.
And we went to Big Alice Brewing, and Lick Project.
LIC.
LIC, yeah.
I'm going to call it Lick from now on.
So yeah, the brewery scene in New York now is just popping. I remember five years ago, I was actually thinking, why isn't there more stuff happening?
Real estate rent.
Yeah.
Beer. Let's. You brought one Haand beer, didn't
Yes.
you? Let's try that next. So Haand beers, man. So when you guys started in 2005, it was a smaller operation, four people, kind of like homebrewers to the craft next step. But now you've grown, but you're having a separate sour brewery.
Yeah, we learned the hard way that that's something you really need to have.
That's funny, Bob. That was a funny joke.
Which
you
one?
learned the hard way that having a separate sour brewery is something you need to have.
Okay.
I thought that was funny.
If those little bugs, get in your big tanks in your system, you're not going to be happy. Especially if you have to use a few months just to find out where they got in.
There's a little action. So, did all your beers that you brought? Did they make it? Did you break some, or did some explode?
I was when I went to Denver and I opened my suitcase in London. Actually, I'm like getting all these fantastic sour flavors. Like, oh no! So yeah, some big bottles of Haand went. Packed them really nice, but the guys at the airport that handle luggage, they handle so many suitcases every day, and I'm sure you're just throwing and throwing. So that sucked.
But we have something. So what did you bring for us?
This is Tindve. It's a
one bottle survived. That's pretty cool. Norway to London to Denver to New York.
Yeah.
This beer's called Tinder.
Tinder. Yeah.
Do you swipe right on this?
Yeah, you should actually. So Tindve is just.
You're warming up, Bob. You're getting there.
Tindve is how you should
Bob
say
W.
sea
Shelton
buffalo.
Brothers. Tinbach.
So this is one that you see a lot in the United States.
So it's a fruity farmhouse. That's the thing, but
It is fruity. It's actually really nice. So it's
And
the
sea
100
buckthorn is an Arctic or a subarctic little fruit. Can you? I mean, not everyone might know what it's like, but packed with vitamin C, very high. It's like cranberries.
What's the name of the fruit again?
Tindve.
Tindve is actually the fruit. You also have what are some other ingredients that you guys use? Lingonberries?
Lingonberries, juniper.
But do you use the juniper branch or juniper?
That's a very important trade secret. What we usually we'll just chop it up and we'll put it in the bags you use for hops, because it's neat and clean, and you just at the end of the day we're very lazy people, and it works. So that's what we do. And I'm not going to give
That was funny too, that you're very lazy people. You're good, man.
For people that work 70 to 80 hours a day, we're pretty lazy.
And also spruce tips you see a lot.
Yeah, spruce tips. We're actually, we just tasted some green beer. I'll be back in February, and we'll do a Kveik double hazy IPA with spruce with Joe from Grimm.
Are you going to bring any ingredients over, like the spruce, or?
We'll bring some Kveik, and we'll probably do the same thing at back home.
Grimm will make beer with you guys?
Yeah.
In Norway? Wow.
So also, I talked to the guys from KCBC. We're probably going to do something as well. I want to do something with the Transmitter, because they make some amazing farmhouse beers right now, and I have to do a beer with Chris from Fifth.
Chris Kuzma, yeah.
He makes amazing beer, and we have the same music philosophy. Beer should be like a song. It should be, if it sticks in your head, that's fine, but it should also be something that you enjoy every time you listen to it.
I'd like to be your publisher, if I could do that. If you could be.
Well, you kind of are.
I guess more promoter.
And you've been taking him around, Bob?
Well, we just got started. Yeah, I mean, it's freezing cold here in December, as you know, in New York City. But Norwegians are used to it.
So where else did you go? You went to KCBC?
We're gonna be traveling around to a bunch of different choice accounts through Brooklyn, through Manhattan, just to show Stefan what New York City's all about when it comes to the craft beer scene and some of the finer bars and purveyors of.
Can you name a couple?
I can. and I will at gunpoint. No. So out here in this neighborhood, we've got the Sampler. There's also
Bushwick, Brooklyn.
we stopped by and saw Aaron Foster's Sundry, and Aaron seemed very interested in doing
Butcher shop, cheese, beers.
Yeah, he wants to do a tasting in 2 months' time. That would be February.
So
keep
we
track.
should start putting on a calendar. In February, Stefan from Haand Brewery will be back.
Yeah, I think we'll try to do some events in February when Stefan is back, and
Yeah, maybe we can do a show or someone you've done a collaboration with, one of those types of people.
Yeah, that's a very good idea.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to take one more short break. We'll be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions Radio. All right. Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey, guys, it's the end of the year, 2018. It might be 2019 by the time you hear this show. But remember, don't forget us, heritageradionetwork.org. Become a member, donate. There's so many great shows out there. And by now, we're almost at 500 episodes of Beer Sessions Radio. So thanks for your support. And back in the fall, we got to meet with some great folks, including Stefan from Haand Brewery, the Haand Brewery in Norway. And we're having a show airing now that we've recorded then. So here we are back with BR and Bob from Shelton Brothers and Stefan from Haand. So we're talking a little bit about the special yeast that you guys using, and it's become kind of trendy, the Kveik yeast. So you're going to come back to New York in February. You might make beers with Fifth Hammer, some of the other Transmitter. Do you think you'll make beers with them too?
Definitely. It seems these days that everyone is moving. Like, we're moving to brewery, Transmitters moving to brewery, and it's just a part of the hassle of doing brewery stuff. You make your beers, you grow, you have to move again. This time for us is actually they want to build a new hospital where the brewery is at. So we have to move again, and I think this is like the 5th or 6th time moving brewery. So now we know how to do it, but it's still such a hassle each time.
That's a lot. It's only about 13 years since you guys started.
Maybe you should put it on wheels.
Maybe we should do that.
That's a great idea, but we'll talk about that another time. But I like one thing about where you are. So where you're located, there are some history of breweries there. There's one that's spelled ass, but you pronounce it os.
No, I just say ass.
You say ass too, and it's in Drammen. So what is noted about that region for making beer? And is there a special source of water?
The region we're from is Buskerud, and it's like the heartland of Norway. It's like in the middle of everything. It's close to the west coast. It's close to Oslo. It's close to Trondheim. It's a good spot to be. Our water is amazing. We'd never do anything with our water. It's soft. It's got minerals. When we do make the hazy IPAs, of course, we do some adjustments because it's what all the cool kids do these days. But it's basically we just plug and play. And I think our water, that's a big part of our, the taste of our beer. It's soft, but it gives room for all the ingredients we put in beer, and we never put a thing in our beer unless we want it to be like present. Don't call it a raspberry sour if you're not putting chunkfuls of raspberry in it.
Now, how many of the original recipes are you still brewing? at the brewery?
That's actually a good question. You're only as good as your last batch of beer, and none of the original beers have the same recipe. Because if you look at something like our Citra Pale Ale, we'd never get the same Citra each year, so you have to adjust. You never get the same type of fruit. Seasons change, and you sort of have to just move along with it, because at the end of the day, beer is like I mentioned with Chris, is like it's a type of music, and it's we're playing live each time someone tries a beer. It's the first time we want that beer to be on point, so to speak.
You tell me about this beer, the Haand beer, the tinned back.
Yes, tinned vid.
There's some great flavor. I'm just having it in my mouth, and the flavors last. It's very complex, and it's I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was possibly the first beer we brought in from Scandinavia that had sea buckthorn. I mean, now pretty much all of our Nordic breweries are doing, whether it's Tuol or Mikkeller, or a few other. I think Brewery is also doing some with sea buckthorn. But at the time, I'm pretty sure that Haand was the first who sent it to us. And it's nice. It's like there's a nice tartness from the very concentrated flavors in these berries, the sea buckthorn berries. Make it's just a nice contrast for a sour beer, and there's a good fruitiness to it as well. There's a nice
tart
malt
and fruity,
sweetness.
but it also I feel like I can taste the grain.
Exactly. There's
Doesn't
definitely
taste
that
like
malt
fruit.
sweetness.
When we made this, we didn't really think about this as a sour beer. It's more of a farmhouse saison beer, but it has this sort of now that it's aged a bit, like you get the same sort of front acidity that you will get from like a Grand Cru champagne, but at the same time, at the opposite side of it, you get this really nice honey, soft malt flavor that sort of crashes or works with and against the tartness, and that.
No, it's definitely not
Fruity.
one note at all. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a sour beer at all. I definitely think
There's a tartness to it,
yeah,
but
more
yeah,
like a
it's not.
country ale that's want to keep drinking it. This is great, man. Cheers to you guys.
Thank you, man.
I've had some Haand beers over the years, but
I think you've poured the Norwegian Wood is one that's very popular that we've done. The Hayskjold, the farmhouse,
Norse Porter.
Norse Porter, right?
Yeah, and in terms of sales in the States, I mean, you have your stronger dark beers, and then you have your sour beers. They sell equally, or are you selling more sours now, or those strong beers?
We actually see, back in the days, if we didn't have our relationship with Shelton, we wouldn't have been making sours, basically, because we couldn't give the sours away. People didn't get what sours were, so luckily Shelton came in and they understood what we wanted to do. There's been a lot of the modern age drinkers in Norway, like been sort of asking us, well, why won't you just keep the beer in Norway and we can drink? It's like, because you weren't around 10 years ago, making sure that Haand could actually stay in business. We have a very nice relationship to Shelton. It's a company we worked the longest with, and hopefully will work a long time.
Well, we hope you keep sending us beer.
Definitely, we have a lot of new things coming. We're actually making quite a lot more sours now. When we get the new space, we'll even triple our sour stuff.
And then the last thing, so it's Christmas time, Christmas beers, holiday beers. There's definitely a Scandinavian, Norwegian tradition. Dark malts, juniper.
Well, it's where the reindeer are from.
Oh yeah, Norway.
Yeah.
We don't talk about reindeer in Norway. They're sacred animals. No, Christmas beers, that's a big thing for us. But we sell it once a year. We sell we sell a shit ton of Christmas beers. This year, everything. We made 8 different beers, and after a week we had 1 beer left, and like we're talking quite a big part of our production. The beer we still have left is actually Halvorsjul, which I think maybe is the best one. It's a aquavit barrel-aged beer with where Halvor Høeg, he's one of the main guys of aquavit, and he'll make a mix for us with spices each year, and we'll add that with the beer in aquavit, and it's such a beautiful beer. It's so
I read about that. So you're aging them in the aquavit barrels.
yeah, with the aquavit spices, and crazy drinkable, for someone who likes that type of beer. But it's like has a sort of velvety, nice chocolate background with some aquavit. You get nice aniseed, licorice sort of spice thing going.
Will you or do you have any of their Christmas beers this year?
I know that we have the Bestafar, and I have to remember which. I'm not sure which other ones we have right now. I think we just had the two in the past. Christmas beers have. We used to sell a lot of Christmas beers, and in the past couple of years, the sales have really because it used to be a really exciting time where breweries would release a special beer just at Christmas. But now there are so many special releases happening all the time that there's not as much excitement about a holiday beer coming out, a winter warmer, or a Christmas style ale. So we've been bringing in smaller amounts, but it is always a good time to have those come in, especially the Norwegian ones. You're known for releasing beers, whether it be at Easter, a stronger beer at Easter time, or a Christmas beer. So a lot of the Nordic countries do that, which is still fairly unique in terms of the amount of selection that you'll have. They won't just do one beer for the holiday; they'll do several.
No, we definitely sell a lot more Christmas beer than Ramadan beer. It's like the Ramadan beer sales have pretty much they're just not there.
That's so weird.
I know.
Actually, the Bestafar that you guys got, that's a fantastic beer. We changed the yeast a little bit, so it's like there's a mix of different Belgian yeast and English yeast, and it's so complex. It has just this little nice touch of smoked malts. Bob from Hill, he said it like that was like one of his favorite beers. Like when each Christmas came, like, and they knew they were getting some Christmas beers like that. That was
That's great, man.
one of the ones.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. It's whether it's Christmas or New Year's, 2018-19.
It's snowing outside.
Your favorite Haand or Scandinavian beer? BR.
Ooh, I want to say Norwegian Wood from Haand.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, it sounds like a cop-out, but we were just talking earlier, Stefan and I, about Norwegian Wood, and that's a beer that if I see it in a store, I can't help but get the bottle and drink it because it's one of the most delicate, complex smoke beers you'll ever have, Norwegian Wood. So
is it like 12%?
No, that's
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah, it's a regular style beer, but that is really elegant. It's an elegant smoked beer. I love that beer.
Well, that sounds good. And I'll take the Tinbach. I think this is something refreshing, and I like that. You say it's tart, but it drinks like a country farmhouse ale. So you guys are great. It's been great having you, BR and Bob from
Thank
Sheldon
you.
Brothers. Stefan, say your full name and the name of the brewery again.
Stefan Williams Hansen, and I work for Homebrewing, Norway.
In Norway. Great, man. Really, really appreciate having you on, and look forward to having you back in New York City in February. We'll be making some collaborations, and there'll be some great events at some of our favorite beer bars. So thanks for checking us out. Thanks to our producer, Justin Kennedy, engineer Matt Patterson, intern Dylan. I'm Jimmy Carboni. We'll catch you next time on Beer Sessions Radio. All right. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.